Sir,
Boom.
yes, sir.
Whew, man. We got a special guest today, man.
Indeed.
You know what I mean?
I'm like family now, man. It's my second go around.
Senior Bowl special.
Exactly.
Senior Bowl special, man. This is the Senior Bowl show.
Mr. All 22 himself.
Man, in the building.
Me, man. Let's get it started.
Man, oh my God, man. Hopefully you got some good things to say about the Raiders today. Let's hope. Let's hope, man.
We'll see.
Some positive things.
I don't have anything negative to say, for sure.
Don't forget to clock in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Here we go.
Great Pharaoh. The gift of Troy is a fabulous fabric from the land of the 5 rivers.
Years ago, when we came to Los Angeles, I really believed that the greatness of the Raiders would be in its future.
We back for another edition of Around the Shield, and we got a special guest, man. We got Dante from Eastcoast Gridiron, man. We got to give him a round of applause, man. Appreciate you coming through, my guy, man. What's up, man?
Yeah,
How
man.
you doing?
Appreciate you guys having me again. I can't complain, man. You know, like I told you guys, I'm coming off the flu, COVID, whatever, but we in here.
Hey, man. Hey, you grinding, man. Eastcoast Gridiron, man. You gotta represent, man. You gotta represent. But hey, we got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, you were at the Senior Bowl and you were able to look at the prospects up close and personal. We'll get into that. We'll get into obviously it's a Raiders show, so we want to get into what you think of Chip Kelly, his offense, some of the assistant coaches we recently hired that have some college connections, and you probably can get into, them a little bit. But before we even get started, man, if you haven't already, make sure to click in, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. We appreciate everybody coming through. Let's get it started, man. Dante, man, I know you've been focusing 100% on what's going on with the Senior Bowl, college prospects, left and right. But what do you think of Chip Kelly, man? He's the new offensive coordinator for the Raiders.
I loved it when Ohio State picked him up. I personally love him as a coach. I mean, I understand his stint with, in the NFL and with the Eagles, more importantly. That's the infamous time of Chip Kelly, right? But I think when you really look at it, like, were the Eagles really a bad team under him? No. It just was unfortunate timing with a couple players that didn't want to buy into his system, and the game was actually evolving at that time where players, coaches had more success unless you already bought into their system. And I didn't think he had that type of cachet to lead a team at that time. And it's just unfortunate timing, right? So what did he do? Went back to UCLA, and tried to put them up on a pedestal, and he had his bumps in the road and things like that. And, I think you can definitely appreciate a coach that can, understand his faults and then try to take a program that, has been not what they were in the past. And I know, Severe, you're a fan of UCLA, so you can attest to this. But, they weren't terrible. They were competing. And, he kind of put himself back on the pedestal as one of those major offensive guys. And, one of the things that I told people at the beginning of the season, man, you can go back on our videos. I predicted this win from Ohio State. I predicted that Will Howard was going to win them a national championship. And I predicted that at one point in time that Chip Kelly was going to be very creative with their offense and not only utilizing his big body quarterback, but having two of the best running backs in the league. And even though Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson probably weren't as dynamic as what people expected them to be during the season, the times when they were dynamic and we really saw the Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss really happen when it was, when it really mattered, which was in the college football playoff. And Chip Kelly's offense, and I know I keep bringing you into this, Severe, because Chip Kelly always had a top 10, top 15 running game in the country every single year. And I think the only thing that people were questioning is that, like, can he develop a quarterback? UCLA wasn't bringing in the top name quarterbacks. I mean, DTR was the best quarterback he had. I mean, the guys like Ethan Garbers and things like that weren't moving the needle. So you find a diamond in the rough and you get that guy drafted, and for 2 years straight, everybody's like, why don't we trade for DTR? That's a testament to Chip Kelly and putting him on the pedestal and making him, the quarterback that he was, with how dynamic that he could be. So when I look at all of that, man, being able to take a step back, reevaluate your game, go to a college that's not known to have, the success that they've had in the past, and really not them being a shoe-in or shoe-over, or, the team that, gets pushed over anymore. Then goes to Ohio State and prove that you can still have that dynamic offense. Now you find yourself back in the NFL and doing it the right way again, on continuously wanting to learn under somebody that's had the success like Pete Carroll. Because I root for the Seahawks too. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. That's my other team I like to root for in the NFL and see them have success. For me not to think that Pete Carroll that found the Matt Flynn's of the world, but pulled the trigger on the Russell Wilsons and found the Marshawn Lynch's and things like that. I think Chip is going to take a little bit away for how I can be a player coach and how I can put myself in position to be a head coach once again. Because Chip Kelly said time and time again why he left UCLA is because he hated the recruiting aspect of it. Well, now you have a GM. You ain't got to recruit anybody. You just tell the GM who you want, and they'll go ahead and go get them for you. So there's no convincing in the NFL you have to do outside the biggest convincing factor, the biggest recruiting factor you have as a coach is winning, and a system that people can buy into as far as how dynamic that we can be, and are you utilizing your talents in that offense? And he showed that he can do that at every single level now. and there's no LaShawn McCoys and Deshaun Jacksons right now that are going to get in his way. So the only person that can get in his way is him. But he's taking the necessary steps, and this is not a Josh McDaniels situation, right? And I think that people are afraid of that happening with Chip Kelly a little bit. But
Yeah.
let's call a ball, a strike a strike. Josh McDaniels only had success with one organization, went to two other organizations and were bad, with the Raiders and the Broncos, and they became worse. Chip Kelly did the opposite and went and kind of learned from his mistakes. So, to answer your question in a nutshell, I think this is a great hire for Pete. For him to, get that little bit of a college system and get a guy that's ready to be a head coach probably again in a couple years, and maybe pass the torch on to somebody like Chip Kelly who, might be ready to lead a squad after. So,
man, hey, look, I'm gonna have to let's rewind real quick. So you believe, hold on, real quick, you believe that you believe in Chip Kelly, the head coach, not just the offensive coordinator. You believe in him as a head coach.
Yeah. I believe everything that he's been doing up to this point has been a calculated attack on getting back into the NFL. Because why would you leave UCLA when they were on a good – I mean, I think UCLA before he left had like the 36th or 37th recruiting class, which is very good for them. And then you bolt out and and then you bolt out and go to Ohio State and you win a national championship in your first year. I mean – it's kind of hard for me not to think that, and then the comments he made about recruiting, it's kind of hard for me to think that, like, you're not screaming, I want to be back in the NFL. I just had to do it my way. You know what I'm saying? So I think this was a monopoly calculated move on the board for sure.
It's funny that you said that because right when I heard that he was going to become the offense coordinator, I was like, oh, okay, that's a solid hire. And then I was just thinking, wait, this could be a chess move. Because we all know, like, if everything goes well offensively for him, who's going to be the next in line for head coach? Because that's literally been the biggest question when Pete Carroll got hired, or with the Pete Carroll being a Raiders coach. Obviously, he's in his 70s. It's like, okay, what's the plan? Like, who's going to be the next guy? Who's going to be the next in line to be the head coach after Pete? Yeah. Because of his age. Now you hire Chip Kelly. You know how the NFL works. Every owner wants to hire the best offensive mind as a head coach. You know what I mean? And if Chip Kelly is able to, like, coach up a top offense for the Raiders with a young QB, then I can kind of see his path to being a head coach. And I'm like, the situation with the Eagles, super talented. I mean, you make a good point. I know Severe the other day also made a good point about how it was a tough situation transitioning from Andy Reid. A locker room that was 100% all in on Andy Reid, and then, I mean, Severe, if you want to speak on this a little bit, because I know you were talking about how, like, that locker room in Philadelphia when he coached the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he took over a team that was 4-12, and they went 10-6, 2 straight years. But it was also a team that they were emotionally invested in Andy Reid, right? Like, Andy Reid had assembled that whole team. He had been there, I forgot how long before, like, I think with the organization, like 14 or something like that, like a long time. So, like, he was beloved in that organization. And, Andy Reid was a more of a wrap your arms around you kind of coach, right? He was that guy, built personal relationships with you. And Chip Kelly's not that kind of guy. Like, Chip Kelly is not, he's not a talker. He's not a, he's a teacher. That's one thing I will say about Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly is a teacher, but he's not, and he's a coach, right? That's what he loves to teach and he loves to coach. But it didn't at that time extend beyond that, right? He kept you guys as an arm reach in terms of personal, but in terms of coaching, hey, he was gonna make sure you understood your assignment. And so I think that that was a different approach than Andy Reid, right? And when you have that kind of approach, that can it can rub some people the wrong way, or if somebody if they're being reprimanded in a way they never have before, that can make them take a step back, like, oh, yo, but like, what's this? Like, this not this, man. I'm sure you've been in that before. Like, if you ever worked in a job or if you ever took over a leadership position for somebody else, or if you ever hired somebody who used to work somewhere else, they'll say, "Oh, well, now at my old job, we did like, well, no, this is not your old job. Like this is your job now. Like, I'm not your old boss. I'm your boss
If
now.
the old way worked, then
it.
your old boss will
Yeah.
still be here.
Exactly. Right. So, or if you liked it so much over there, why wasn't you still over there? Right. So, like this is how this operation runs now. Like, I don't really want to hear about the old boss or the old way. This is the new way. So, you can buy into the new way, or you can leave. And there's some people that didn't buy into it, and they elected to leave. But I also think he understands that, as Dante said, there was a little bit of a change. Like it was a case of bad timing for him, both with the Eagles and with UCLA, because with the Eagles it was the whole player coach thing, and that was like the kind of the new way back then. But then you think about his time with UCLA, that what happened during that time, right? NIL, right? And you have a school that's a state school that's essentially cash poor. So they're not going to have the firepower, and they don't have the alumni or the coffers to spend the kind of money on players that other schools had. So he was always at a disadvantage in terms of that. But he still built a pretty good program, right? Beat the brakes off USC twice. So, he beat the brakes off Caleb Williams with Ethan Garbers at quarterback. Or no, it was Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley. Ran them out the stadium. He was able to do that with a far less talented team than what Lincoln Riley had. And Lincoln Riley for a while was the NFL's darling. He was the guy that was supposed to come in and
the next great thing.
They couldn't wait to pry him away from USC. Well, Chip Kelly whipped his ass, right? With Caleb, with the number 1 overall draft pick at quarterback. So, it's so beat him so bad that Lincoln Riley was like, damn, I have to offer a whole bunch of money to UCLA's defensive coordinator to bring him over here so we can stop UCLA the next year. Like, that's how bad he beat him. I think in terms of as a play caller and an offensive coach, he can do it. Has he learned enough lessons from the past to make that transition to head coach? That remains to be seen. That remains to be seen. But in terms of offensive coordinator, a guy that can scheme up an offense, a guy that can, and you see the evolution of his offense. It went from the tempo. You see him, with UCLA, he was doing a lot of creative stuff, and then even last year with Ohio State, you see him in a lot more 12 personnel than you ever saw him in before. Like he was able to evolve from year to year. But one thing that stayed true and stayed steady, no matter where he was at, they ran the football. And as much as Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Jackson and Shady McCoy didn't like him, they both had their best years under Chip Kelly. So
I was just going to say that, like, it's hilarious that these are the two dudes that complain, but especially LaShawn McCoy, the guy that you probably want in your offensive game plan is Chip Kelly giving you the rock 20 to 25 times the game, and you're sitting there being a child about the whole thing because he's running his organization a little bit different than what your buddy cop Andy Reid did when you were there. But I mean, things are going to be different.
It was LaShawn McCoy's best year under Pete Carroll. He ran. Oh, you talking about? Oh, yeah,
under Chip Kelly.
Yeah, he ran for like 1,600 yards. 600 yards. And he had the most carries too. Most carries in his career at 314. So I don't know what that means for the next running back coming in for the Raiders, but and then, well, yeah, I mean 600 yards, and then I don't know about Deshaun Jackson. Do you know how much he had that year? That's interesting. Deshaun Jackson. But you know what? All right, let's because I'm not too sure is Chip Kelly the head coach. I got PTSD from Josh McDaniels, just like you mentioned. A lot of Raider Nation has PTSD from Josh McDaniels. But, hey, that doesn't mean that you should condemn him as a coach. He probably he's kind of he's had a journey.
Best year too.
His best year? Okay. But he's had a journey.
1,300 yards.
1,300 yards? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, like you said, like you mentioned, Dante, you said, Chip Kelly had a journey ever since his first head coaching job with the Eagles. I mean, he went to the Niners, didn't do too well, then went back to college. And ever since then, like you said, it might be. Hey, this might be perfect timing for the Raiders. Who knows? But let's talk about.
And he went from player coach and Ryan Day to player coach and Pete Carroll. So I don't think you go to those two type of guys unless you're trying to take a little bit away from that too. You know what I'm saying? Like you're trying to learn. How can I be more like you? I mean, people are gonna. Chip is not going to change his whole philosophy, but I think what he can at least do is appreciate, like, when the going is getting bad, or like when a relationship with the player is souring, you don't just say, well, I'll meet you in my office tomorrow morning at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. and we could talk about it. It's more so, let's squash it. Let's get it out right now. Like, what's going on? He's going to handle it right there instead of delaying it a day like most other professionals would.
It's just some of the things that you're like, the question marks about him, especially at a head coach. That's part of his personality. You know what I mean? I don't know. Can that change at his age? I mean, I'm sure he probably went to different programs and been around different people, but at the end of, you are who you are, right? As far as your personality, it's not going to change too much. You might implement certain strategies, certain ways to do certain things, but I don't know, change who you are, right?
I think there's something to be said about what you're saying, but then also it's how many excuses can you give for a guy that's not being successful outside of what he brings as far as statistics every single year? Like, yeah, the LaShawn McCoys have their best year under him. Top 15 out of 135 schools. You're one of the top rushing teams. You're successful everywhere you go. Look at the Oregon Ducks teams. Look at Philadelphia. Look at when he was offensive coordinator for the 49ers. Like and then ultimately coming off a national championship. Like, I think Chip is like, you can't deny that I've had success. So the only thing that you're going to hold against me is the other 30% of like that I'm not a coach that other players like. So, and that's what the national media is going to say, right? Like, I mean, it's a results-oriented league until it's the narrative of like, this guy doesn't fit our locker room. So that's what I'm kind of like. I'm in a hallway with you. Like, yeah, I get where you're coming from for sure, but then also I'm kind of with Chip. Like, what I do works. So I don't know if you can hold against me that at least I can take a back seat for 2 years. I mean, because he could have came out and said, I want to be a head coach again, and I'll be in the coaching carousel for this. Ultimately, this round of head coaching searches right now. Or he could have gone down, I'm sure he got an interview with the Saints and said, I'm going to be your next head coach. But instead, he waited for the opportunity for a guy like Pete Carroll to be like, hey, man, I got this great opportunity for you. Come down here, let me mold you to be the guy. And I don't have that much time. I'm in my 70s. I'm almost damn near ready to croak, So if it don't work with me, but people see the success of your offense, then the Raiders are not just going to boot you, and players are going to want to come and play for you. But let me set you up for that success, because the only bad thing about Chip Kelly is his defenses. That's it. So Pete's going to be able to help him clear up and find the right guy for that, because the most important part as a head coach is what I said last time with you guys. You got to coordinate your coordinators. Your philosophy is your philosophy, but you can't tell me if Pete Carroll, if Chip Kelly was a head coach and you bring a guy like Robert Saleh to be your defensive coordinator, you guys would be over the moon, because he's kind of learned, like, I got to go with what works, and my offense is going to be okay. But if I can go get a Brian Flores or Robert Saleh, then I'm learning my lessons from the past, because whoever I bring in on offense, even if it's promoting the quarterback's coach, they're going to learn from an offensive mind like me, and we're probably going to be okay. So how can I handicap myself the other way? And I think that's what Pete's trying to mold him to do. Like, your complete organization's got to be from top to the bottom, but you got to find your deficiency on what you're not good at, and that's defense. So follow me. I'll bring you under my wing. We'll get the other stuff, squared away. Your offense is going to be fine. Let's work on the defensive mindset for you moving forward and get that working, because I'm a defensive guy at the end of the day. So It's almost like a match made in heaven. You know what I'm saying?
We'll see, man. I know a lot of Raider Nation is excited about the hire as far as an offensive coordinator, the offense and what that's going to look like. I think the first thing that we talked about last show, 50-50 show every Tuesdays, with me and Severe, we talked about how the run game is going to be really improved because we were one of the worst teams in running the football last year from a talent perspective, and obviously just from execution. Like we couldn't get the job done. Now with Chip Kelly, how is he going to be able to change the Raiders offense? Do you have any, like, what is it going to look like? I mean, this version of Chip Kelly, because we seen what it looked like the first time around, but that was a completely different Chip Kelly coming from Oregon and, the Marcus Mariotas and all that, who, by the way, is a free agent, might be a possible free agent acquisition for the Raiders. But what is it going to look like this time around for the Raiders?
I know the Marcus Mariota thing gets thrown in there, but those two have been so far removed from each other since the Oregon days that I think they let bygones be bygone. Like, I wanted you when you were a freshman or a rookie because we had just came off so much success with Oregon, and I wanted you there. Marcus is in a totally different. I think Marcus is going to want to stay with Jaden and be the ultimate teammate, because if you've ever watched any interviews between those two, they're like peanut butter and jelly, man. And I told you guys last time, the best rooms, the best positional rooms are the ones that have success. And Marcus Mariota is a great rock for Jaden Daniels because he was in his position. Heisman winner, having to put an organization on my back. And he can be that, like, dude, all right, we lost a couple games here. Get yourself back together. I got you, man. It's too good for, I think, Dan Quinn to say we're going to let Marcus Mariota go. I think they're going to at least keep him bring him back on like a 2-year deal and keep Jaden's feet grounded, because any other quarterback that's been a freshman that's had this type of year, they come into this like next year having that slump that we're seeing. Who does CJ Stroud have down with the Texans to help him be like that? There's nobody. Who was that for Trevor Lawrence? CJ Beathard? Like, come on, let's be honest. So Jaden Daniels is in a great spot if Marcus Mariota comes back. So I think that conversation is far removed. But to get to your question about, like, what does a Chip Kelly kind of structure look like? If there's any negative that's going to come in from this, is that people are not going to see the Brock Bowers that they saw this year. Unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. I think the 12 personnel thing is going to be great, but again, he's a running quarterback or running coach mind. And what was one of the best things that I even talked about with Brock Bowers is his blocking. You didn't get to see a bunch of that this year. It was when Michael Mayer was healthy. You got to see a little bit of that from him, but it was more so he was being used in the pass game. But wait until you see the Brock Bowers that can block. That's going to be exciting for guys like me, because I've seen with the George Kittles how much he can make an impact for the 49ers in that aspect. And your running back room is going to be so happy for that. Like, maybe Dylan Lobby finally gets that shot at what he needs while following that guy, on a toss on the outside, and Brock Bowers just blowing somebody up. It doesn't matter to you guys. You guys just want to see wins, but you already got the ceiling of what Brock Bowers can be, right? And you got that this year. So now what Chip is going to be able to do is dial that back just a little bit, keep him a little bit healthy, and make that running game even more refined by a skill set that you guys really didn't see that got unlocked this year, which is, I think, is super exciting, because Chip sees that. You got two really good tight ends who I feel like Michael Mayer also kind of evolved in the blocking game as well, because he wasn't like that in college. So I actually took a step back thinking, like, wow, okay, when he's come in, he's been a really good blocker for you guys. So I think that's what, first and foremost, what you're going to see. And that's kind of the obvious answer, right? But just to get in depth, I think structurally you take those two tight ends away and you make them more important in your running game than your passing game. And then what you're going to see from here on out is Trey Tucker get more involved, because what's going to be so threatening to everybody is that I can run out of 12 personnel and run the ball really well. Now, play action is going to be super important to what we do now too. But how do we open up play action? Well, first of all, run a couple play action packages with short passes to speedy guys like Trey Tucker for 15 yards. And now you feel like you're kind of screwed now because we can hit you from all different directions, right? So I think that aspect too of the offense you're going to see open up. And then the exciting plays, right? Chip Kelly's not known to do this a lot, but when it's time to pull the trigger, my goodness, he's going to pull the trigger. We saw this with Jeremiah Smith. And sometimes he does it in creative ways where we're going to do it off the rip just to kind of get a litmus test on what your defense is going to do today. You might see a Jacoby Myers go down the field and catch a 60-yard pass and then run the full time just to get the touchdown. That's Chip Kelly in a nutshell, right? Big play to set you up. And then we get back to that traditional style of just ground and pound you the full game. And then once you can't take it anymore, Jacoby's still healthy on the outside. We're going to hit him up top. So I feel like a guy like Tetairoa McMillan in this draft would be great in that system because he's a big body guy. He can block really well. And of course, he's seen all the circus catches that this guy can provide for you too. It's like, it's kind of a match made in heaven for a guy like Chip Kelly. Or, you know, you go in the second round and you start just drafting. I can see you guys drafting back-to-back running backs just so Chip's like, I got an arsenal of the guys that I can get. And guess who would be out there in the second round? Travion Henderson, bringing his guy home. And it would be, I'm telling you, it would be glorious, man. It would be glorious. And
do you think this, I know we're going ahead, but do you think oh man, I'm thinking about the running back from Arizona State. You think he could drop to the third round? Scatterbo, yeah. You think he could drop to the third?
I tell you what, him not coming out to the Senior Bowl probably ruined it for him, because he wasn't able to showcase his skills against the running backs that were there. It's not the fact that any of those guys blew you away, but it's just the fact that he didn't show up and say that he could have been better than all those guys that were there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't do that for whatever reason. I don't know why he didn't show up. It didn't seem like he was unhealthy enough to come there. Nobody really knows why he didn't. So I think the only person that hurt Cam Scatterbo was Cam Scatterbo by not doing that, knowing that the Senior Bowl is held so highly amongst all the NFL scouts. Like literally, I'm walking up and down the stairs with Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin walking up the same area as me multiple times. So like, if that tells you anything, like, these guys are down there deep. John Lynch was down there. Joe Shane was down there. Like, we're walking past these guys. So for you to not to have at least shown your face and showing what you can do, and it would have been really fun for him to have been down there, I think he hurt himself. So, yeah, I think maybe I hate to say this about the guy, but maybe a fourth-round pick at this point in time because of just the other guys that have elevated themselves this past week. Even at the Shrine Bowl, a lot of guys elevated themselves. So these things are important, man. And I don't think these kids understand that quite yet. And social media with guys like us that go down there and post these videos and interviews, to think that these scouts are not just pulling up YouTube to see how well that you're talking or the highlights that are there when they couldn't have been there in attendance. Mm-hmm. They're using all this stuff right now, man. Like, I'm telling you, I know NFL scouts. They are literally getting people's YouTube videos as clips of things that they've been doing if they weren't able to make it themselves. So you build your resume with those type of things. I'm not I use the Senior Bowl as like, I let the Senior Bowl sharpen my knife on the player because I get to see them practice. That's the best part of it for me. Your game film is still your game film at the end of the day. That's my ultimate swing point. But if you can go down there and practice as well as you can, of what was on your game film, then I feel like the ultimate breadwinner by evaluating your film, and you practice as good as that too. So, I mean, you're going to have your bad practice players. Like Bo Nix was absolutely terrible in practice last year, but didn't really sway it too much for me because I knew when the lights were the brightest that he was going to show up. So, but yeah, I think in that aspect, man, Cam Scatterbo just hurt himself. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that too, because that's a player's opportunity to talk to teams too. I think teams are able to talk to you, and they can, probably get a gauge on, what type of player you are, what type of person you are. I'm sure that's just part of the whole process. But man, fourth round. I was thinking third round. I was like, man, because the draft, like there's so many different running backs, every different type of running back, and it's so competitive where like if you miss a part of the process like that, so man, is he going to be? I'm sure he's probably going to be if he's invited to the combine. I think he's going to be invited to the combine, but pretty sure he's going to be invited. But he better show up to that.
That'd be a miss if he doesn't.
Yeah, and his pro day is going to be huge. Gonna be huge.
Yeah, it's just hard not to have been at the Senior Bowl because you're practicing against the Senior Bowl is known to have the best invites out of all the players in the country. No offense to the Shrine Bowl, it just is what it is. That's their reputation. And because Jim Nagy, who runs the whole show, he used to be a former scout for years. So it's kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's when you evaluate both, you got a scout's perspective and then you have an organization's perspective of just sending out invites for the most hyped guy. Jim is going to bring the best of the best down there. So the fact that he got an invite is in his favor, but the fact that he didn't show up after that invite, almost beating Texas, people are considering that this guy could have been a Heisman type guy, and you don't show up. The only thing that I hope is like it was just an injury that kept him back. But yeah, he's going to need to show out at the combine. He just pushed himself to work even harder at those two things, and it needs to. I've never seen a flawless combine followed by a flawless pro day ever, but it's going to need to be that for him to even remotely be in the second or third round. I think early.
All right, man. I wouldn't mind taking Scatterbo in the third or fourth round. I mean,
it's going to be a steal for anybody. Yeah, for sure.
I want the Raiders to have their version of Thunder and Lightning. So obviously he's that that Thunder in the backfield. You mentioned Travion Henderson. I guess let's just get into the Senior Bowl real quick. Who were your standouts? I mean, guys that stood out to you from any position.
First of all, man, I'm gonna give you some sleeper names, but I'm gonna definitely give you the ones that I really thought coming out of each day. I was like, man, they can't be denied. I mean, we talked about Tej Johnson a little bit, so let's just get into him, man. On social media, you've seen everybody raving about him, and usually I don't agree with the masses, but everybody hit that on the head because it was so obvious, right? This wasn't something that you had to pick out play by play if you were watching or not. He was obviously the best receiver on the field every single snap. From the speed to the separation. I mean, you guys have seen the highlights the full week of people posting videos. Like, I was gonna post a video of mine. I'm like, probably somebody already posted the same clip, so ain't no need. I'll just keep that one on my phone for right now. But the things that you didn't see that people didn't put on there, which I'm kind of surprised, is how good he was in blocking, man, and like trying to blow people up at the second level. Dude weighed in officially 5'9", 156 pounds were his official measurables that week. And people are like, wow, he's going to get dusted this week. I mean, all of us sat there like, man, this might not be good. Tez was like, I don't care how big you are, how small you are. Like, you about to get this work. I mean, guys like Jeffrey Bossa, who were on his team at linebacker, were just having fits with this guy. So it pays to be a ball player, and this is why I told you guys before the show, I don't care about intangibles. If you can play, you can play, man. And I still think the match made in heaven, obviously, with the storyline, is that the Broncos go in the second round, and they overdraft Tez. But when he gets on the field, people are going to look at him like he's Deshaun Jackson 2.0, just not as speedy, but can do everything that a complete receiver could do and play above his size. I mean, it was like watching AJ Brown be his size. Like that's what it looked like to me. It was like, this dude's AJ Brown right now, just doing whatever he wants to do, like tugging at receivers, physical. He was an absolute beast, man, and it's very understood. And I'll give you an underrated guy at receiver because I think the receivers shined a lot this week. But there's a white dude out of Arkansas. I didn't get watch a lot of Arkansas games. I saw a couple early in the season, but his name is Isaac Tesla, man. Isaac Tesla from Arkansas. When I tell you this, he had a couple drops here and there. Not the best route runner in the world, but when he did cook people, I mean, he cooked them. when he was going up for get the circus grab, he was going up and get it. Even the drops, his eye never left the ball all the way down to the ground, man. Always trying to find it if he couldn't get it initially. That to me, he put together what we call scout reps, man. Like a wide receiver coach in the NFL is going to want that kid on the team because they're like, okay, you have that no give up attitude. Let's get that hand strength right. Let's get you on the jug machine 24/7. You're going to be a beast. He reminded me of Cooper Kupp. And I mean, taking the white kid thing out of it, it's just that no give up mentality in the slot, man. I think he had that.
How big is he?
He's not that big. I believe he was like 6 foot 110, or I'm sorry, 210, something like that. So
I was going to say 110. I'm like, damn.
110, I got damn.
Nah, he's smaller than this. Nah.
Didn't want a meal plan.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely want to call him out. Pat Bryant from Illinois, you guys know about him, big body dude.
Yeah.
At receiver, he was pretty good. Of course, I have my personal favorites, right? But I don't think they get a lot of shine. And we talked about Tyler Shuck, man. Everything that I saw on film, in practice, translated. I mean, from the arm angles to I even asked him this in an interview, like the mechanical things, like you just leaning to get that ball on the outside on those little toss passes to make sure the receiver doesn't jump in front of you, like mechanically sound, has the size, has the arm strength, has the the processing downfield in practice, man. He just looked the most comfortable out of all the quarterbacks. Him and Seth Hennigan were like, I don't know why these guys aren't higher on everybody's boards. I really don't. I even told him after the interview, I said, dude, you're going to find yourself as a starter very, very quickly once people figure out who exactly you are. And he's very, very humble too. So that's why I like interviewing these players. After we got a little bit to chit chat, and I told him, I was like, dude, I don't know why people don't have you as evaluated so high, even though statistically you're like top 5 in every category as far as like, throws under pressure, contested throw percentage. Like he's very high in all those categories. And he's like, wow, I didn't really know that. I don't really pay attention to the statistics. I just go out there and I go ball. The only thing about him is just his health over the years. That's pretty much it. But he had a clean bill of health this year. And I think if we're going to give Michael Penix a pass for his injuries, which I totally agree with, that was 2 years ago, we shouldn't be worried about his injuries. Mm-hmm. But Tyler Shuck has not been injured in damn near 2 years either. So if they're using that and hanging out over his head, we need to kind of just hang that narrative up and really look at, if we talk about the Dylan Gabriel's too short, well, you pretty much have the Dylan Gabriel type of quarterback and Tyler Shuck, and he's the prototypical size that you want for a quarterback as well. So, and Dylan's the other guy. Like, you guys know how much I like Dylan Gabriel, but dude, the respect that he's got from just all his peers. We had a little moment with him because he gave like thousands of dollars to his high school in Hawaii and things like that. And one of my guys, his mom went to the same high school. So it was kind of cool to see them have like their little moment and talking about that. But like, he even asked, like, how you guys pronounce your names and this, that, and the third. And he was, I think he's tired of the height narrative, man. Like for sure. He got asked that a ton, and he was outperforming a lot of quarterbacks that were there. So, I mean, just the usual standouts. And I want to call out one running back. I know a lot of running backs get buried in this draft because of how deep it is. Mm-hmm. But Jarquez Hunter from Auburn, man, absolute cannon. A lot of people didn't want to tackle him. He runs angry. I mean, there's not enough good things to say about that kid just in general. I think he's going to make somebody happy on an NFL team. He's probably not a number one, but like that thumper that you want on your team, that's like, I got to get it's 3rd and 1 and I need that extra yard. Jarquez he even told us in our interview, like, what's that one thing that you like doing? He was like, shoot, I like running people over. There's a running back coach that saw that and is going to be like, yeah, I want this guy on my team for sure.
No, for sure.
And he's that guy. The offensive lineman didn't really stand out too much outside of Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. I think he found himself in the first round after the Senior Bowl, but yeah, as far as the offensive guys, that's pretty much the ones that I have from there.
That stood out to you.
It stood out to me consistently. Yeah. So you know, like when I'm down there and evaluating guys, it's not just the highlight plays where everybody's like, I mean, we're in the crowd and everybody's like, ooh, you know, I don't care about the oohs and the ahs. I want to see how consistently you get out your break almost the same exact way when you beat somebody the last time. Does that move still work? Or are you just trying to be creative for no reason? Because a lot of guys get down there, and I hate that sometimes the Senior Bowl and the rest of these guys just give out credentials to everybody. You don't know how many times that there's, I don't want to call anybody out, but there's some dummies that come there, and you know, Severe, I think if you were there sitting down next to me, we'd be like, what is this guy doing here? You know what I'm saying? There's guys that are like, oh, who's number 12? And they were like, that's so-and-so. You didn't know who this guy was? Like, there's literally guys that are down there that are just trying to get content that don't know who these players are, and it's kind of annoying too. But now outside of that, it's always a good week getting down there and evaluating those guys. Josh Connerly from Oregon. I know you guys probably seen that clip of Mike Green blowing him up, right? That went around the internet for a while. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Josh Connerly was actually good, but he plays left tackle. He played right tackle against Mike Green, and everybody blew Mike Green up to be this absolute beast that I don't think that he's going to be. You can't take a guy that plays left tackle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about him. I was going to ask you about him.
Yeah, I don't think Mike Green was that beast that everybody thought he was, man. But this is a guy that only practiced 2 days and then packed up his bags and left. Like, what? I hate that. Like, honestly. And what they were saying is like NFL teams were saying, we've seen enough of you out of practice. You can go home. Don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. Stay out there and consistently do what you got to do. And win yourself the defensive MVP. That's going to even look even better if you were to do that. But, I mean, how does that look with your peers? You're just ruining another opportunity of a kid that could have came and did what he did. But I don't know. A lot of people are infatuated with Mike Green. I don't see it. I see still the Nick Scortons of the world, you know, that are better than him. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss had a very good week. They told him to leave and he stayed. You know, it's just it's things like that.
So I noticed that you I mean, I don't know if Severe you wanted to say something, but I noticed that you kind of didn't mention some of the big name quarterbacks. The bigger name quarterbacks that were at the Senior Bowl, like the a Raider Nation favorite right now, Jackson Dart. Another quarterback who you who mentioned in the past that you like, a Jalen Milroe. You know, he has all the physical attributes that you would want in a quarterback. You know, super athletic, especially in today's NFL. You know, like a poor man's Lamar. You know what I mean? Like, what did you see out of those quarterbacks in the Senior Bowl?
Jackson. Actually, let's get into Jalen Milroe first. Jalen Milroe he had a really bad week, man. Like, just no other way to slice it. Like, he did not look good.
Oh,
but the times that he did look good, he looked like the best quarterback on some throws too. So, I mean, there was some wide receivers that were kind of shaking their hands after he threw them a pass. Like, damn, okay, Jalen, like, ease up, bro. We understand you got a missile, but we need you to turn that thing down to, you know, a PP90, man. Like,
right.
Come back down to earth, you know? So, yeah, he was just inconsistent, man. I don't want to say he was bad. He was inconsistent is a better word for Jalen. I think a lot of people are throwing the narrative that, like, you know, he was throwing some passes in the ground. Well, if you want to be fair, everybody's boyfriend right now is Jackson Dart, and he was doing the same damn thing and throwing passes short and things like that. But, you know, I don't see any negative press about Jackson Dart, but it's obviously Jalen Milroe. But and that's what I hate about that week, man. It's like reading some people I just got to mute on Twitter and not see their post ever again, because it's like you got to evaluate what's out there, but also evaluate what they did throughout the season. Are you infatuated by stats? Or are you infatuated by a guy getting better throughout the week? And Jalen Milroe's first day was not his third day of practice, right? His third day was a lot better. And then when he put it together in the game, it was. I mean, it wasn't a good game, but these guys are only out there for a couple series and then they're done. So I don't expect the Jalen Milrows of the world to build chemistry faster than a guy like Seth Hennigan that was a 4-year starter with everybody out of Memphis. I don't care that he played at a smaller school, but he has that attuned in his head that like my career has been forever changing at the same school with the different weapons coming in and out. I can adapt really fast. That's not Jalen Milrow. You know what I'm saying? So I think it was a little unfair that people were crapping on that kid. And it was to the point where I was at the airport, my last day at the Airbnb. I watched 2 full seasons of Jalen Milrow tape. And I just continued to write notes. And I'm like, Jalen Milrow to me is the end of a second round pick right now still. And the narrative that he's a bad quarterback is crazy by how bad that Alabama actually was on offense with no running game like they've had in the past. Mm-hmm. And that Ryan Williams got shut down halfway through the season. And CJ Dupree, who was his tight end, became his number 1 target. Like, come on. Like, everybody know who Ryan Williams was. Like, but Ryan Williams was getting, getting completely slaughtered halfway through the season. Yeah. So I put that to the side of like, I think he was inconsistent, and he just was inconsistent at wrong place, wrong time, as was Jalen Milrow's sentiment for me. Jackson Dart had almost a similar effect to Jalen Milrow for me, but people were obsessed with when they were warming up. And what Jackson Dart was doing outside of Jalen Milrow is like, I'll warm up on 10 yards, I'll warm up on 20, I'll warm up on 40, 50. And the ball was coming out a lot cleaner than Jalen's was. And I hear people like sitting next to me, I mean, scouts sitting next to me talking about, oh man, that was amazing. I'm like, these dudes are just warming up. Like Jackson Dart is a different quarterback than Jalen Milrow. His game is not to run. His game is to throw the 9 ball down the field consistently and throw a short yard hitches, because that's what Lane Kiffin asked him to do. So yeah, of course his arm is going to look much cleaner and things like that. But still, the same processing issues that had happened when he was at Ole Miss happened during practice. I mean, we saw this dude throw 3 interceptions in a row. Now, they have this drill of one-on-ones where they have their wide receiver lined up against a corner. Typical drill.
Who threw
and they'll run the same route
in a row?
Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart against Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, he did it 3 times in practice, too, on the drill. Like, roll back. And they were doing outside routes, and he couldn't consistently hit and was getting picked off or knocked out. The ball getting knocked out the receiver's hand because he was throwing it short. He's not used to doing those things. So when I told people during the season, I'm like, you guys are going to hype up Jackson Dart, but he doesn't throw a consistent route tree to understand what that feels like on a consistent basis. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I'm like, he got better as the week went on. And I think what people were so obsessed about is like Jackson Dart could have 7 bad plays, but the 3 that he had were incredible. So we're going to hang on to that. So again, you say that Jalen Milrow was consistent or inconsistent, but Jackson Dart was as consistent but made more crucial mistakes. But Jalen Milrow sucks, and Jackson Dart is rising up people's draft boards. So I kind of threw my hands up at that situation. But, I mean, I wasn't again, when I say I'm not a fan of somebody, it's a fan of what I've seen on tape of them. I would have taught the Jackson Dart like I would have taught of my favorite player down there if I had the opportunity, because I want to see what his psyche and how he is as a player. And if I can become a fan of you personally, it helps me. I might have a little bit more bias towards you, but I don't want to see that kid do bad. I hope he develops, but I just don't see it right now. I see him still being a 4th rounder like I evaluated before. And if somebody picks him up and help and able to help him get to that point, then maybe. But I don't see Jackson Dart as the type that's going to want to sit behind a starter for very, very long. I think he's going to thrust himself in there. Oh, he missed that 9 ball. If I was with Lane, I would have hit that. Yeah. I think he's that type of guy. Like, he's gonna have a big chip on the shoulder.
Man, that's crazy. Severe, you wanna chime in?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't at practice, so I can't I can't speak like I can't speak. But talking about Tez Johnson, kind of what I heard from him reminded me of what I heard years ago about a guy that was kind of under people's radar, and I was telling people about him before, and they didn't want to listen to me, and then he destroyed everybody at the Senior Bowl, and now he's one of the better receivers in the league, and that's Terry McLaurin. So he went to the Senior Bowl,
I was as
and
high
he
as him
just
as you were, brother.
he
Yep.
was destroying everybody at the Senior Bowl. People thought he was just a speed guy, and then he went to the Senior Bowl. And he was cooking everybody on routes, and he just dominated. You
Yep.
talk about guys that left early. A guy that left early at Senior Bowl before, right? Was a guy, I think it was 4 years ago now, but Javon Kinlaw, I think he left after day one, right? He had one dominant day of practice and then left, and you see what the guy's been in the league. So, I think maybe teams will learn from it. Maybe teams won't. I know there's that quarterback from Canada. I know that he's intriguing people. I forget his name. It starts with
Tyler
E.
Gersma.
Yes. Did you go? Did you watch him at all?
I you could definitely tell that he was in a class below everybody for sure.
Okay.
You know what, man? I see why he got the invite, because I feel like his arm could eventually get there. He was one of those guys that, like, let's say if you were a high school coach and you saw a guy out there throwing passes to his friends, and you're like, man, you ever play football before? You know what I'm saying? I feel like that was Tyler Algersma. It was just like, you could be really, really good, but you're not there yet.
Yeah.
Cannon for an arm, though, man. Probably outside of Jalen Murrow, he was up there with Jalen Murrow as far as arm strength. Great size for the guy. But this guy came from playing 6v6 football too. So that's another thing to notice. Like,
wow. Okay.
He's not used to playing with that many players on the field, but the fact that he fit in as much as he did with all that against him, I would say that Tyler Algersma, when you look at on Sunday morning, like, I'm happy for that kid that he came out and competed. You know what I'm saying? And if a team wants to take a flyer on him and have him he's definitely the practice squad type of guy that if you figure out once that, he's able to connect the train together on how to play quarterback, he might be one of those feel good stories one day. But, he's definitely got a lot to work on as far as like intermediate accuracy and understanding like how fast like a Tez Johnson could be out of a break and getting that ball out. It's just processing things with him. The quarterback mechanics as far as throwing the ball are all there. I just think the mental has to match up with the physical. But I would say if I had to give him a report card, I'd give him an A+ for, coming out there competing, learning something new. I mean, definitely in the huddle with a lot of those other quarterbacks, he's definitely out there asking them questions, not feeling like he was coming in there like, oh, I'm better than you guys. Y'all think y'all better than me because I'm from Canada. You know what I'm saying? He didn't come down there with that attitude. And he actually was very vocal too, as far as setting adjustments and things like that. So, and I think that was him getting used to that. This is really important once you get to this level of football, is like that 6v6 stuff. It's not going to work. The pressure comes at you real quick. And I was pretty happy. I was pretty happy for him that he, let bygones be bygones, and he came down and had a pretty decent week. So I could see him getting picked up and undrafted and being on the practice squad and maybe working himself on an active roster one day. So I definitely don't see that being out of the realm of possibility with the attitude that he has.
No, I'm trying to think another big name guy that was there. I wanted to ask you about, because I know, I think probably coming into the season he might have been RB2, or probably for the beginning of the year, maybe RB2 on a lot of people's list. But Ollie Gordon at OK State, I know he kind of had a up and down year. But how do you look out there at the Senior Bowl?
First of all, the guy has a great attitude. I just want to throw that out there. We talked to him a couple of different times. He's great guy. He's bigger than what people give him credit for, bro. I mean, he's huge. So his thing at the Senior Bowl was he would have one really dominant rep and then look average the rest of practice. That's not going to move the needle for you, sir, with you coming off being a Doak Walker Award winner. So when you're looking at like all the running backs like RJ Harvey and the rest of those guys that are out, I mean, he definitely wasn't at the top of that list, but I can see that year last year definitely got to his head a little bit. I mean, I still think he kind of walks around with that little bravado of like, man, y'all ain't Ollie Gordon. I'm Ollie Gordon. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know if that has something to do with it, Severe, to be completely honest with you, bro. Like, I think him taking a game or two suspension from Mike Gundy would have helped him out for sure to come back down to earth. And I think maybe he would have had a better year, but outside of his size, that people are going to like NFL scouts are going to fall in love with that. Cause I mean, again, he looks slim when you watch him on TV, but he's big as shit. He looked like a tight end. I'm like, who is tackling you, dog? Like, there's no way. But yeah, he's definitely got mechanical things to work on. I think that's what he thinks he can rely on is like, I'm gonna just slice my way through the offensive line and get in an open space. And what he found out real fast is like the Big 12 doesn't play defense all that well, and now you're going against guys from the SEC that play like Walter Nolan up front that you got to get past him before you get to the second line, and that's what he was struggling with most of the week was trying to get in that open space or like thinking that he's going to get there. And noticing that defensive tackles in the SEC actually play football, not just the linebackers. So,
I mean, where do you project him going in the draft? In this running back draft, that's deep.
Man, he's definitely not going to be at the top, man. If anything, people are going to over project him because of his size, or if he comes into the combine and has a really good combine or something, it'll help him. And people are just always going to remember that year last year. But I think he's, and this is being generous, I think beginning of the fourth round for him too. I think him and Cam Scadaboo are kind of like in that same tier where they're going to get drafted. But one is obviously going to be better than the other. It's just, do you want the intangible guy that showed the production at one point in time? Or are you going to want the gritty guy that is from the mud that maybe not have the size, but know that he's a football player at the end of the day? It's like, that's going to be the battle that happens between those two. And I think, like maybe day 3 comes around and those are the two guys that get talked about a lot. Like, where's Ollie Gordon and Cam Scadaboo going to end up? And we're all going to be texting each other like, oh man, these are two guys that you were talking about. And I think that's going to be a conversation on day 3 for sure.
Man, I feel like the theme of the show so far, man, is Chip Kelly, because I actually want to pick your brain as far as who do you see quarterback-wise as a fit with Chip Kelly? He's done it with different types, but like what would you say would be the perfect Chip Kelly quarterback? If you had to say, it could be anybody from the Senior Bowl, obviously the draft. If you want to look into draft, we can do that as well. Go ahead.
There's 2 quarterbacks that come to mind, and one of them's kind of going to throw you for a loop. But I really, in my last mock draft, I had Shedeur Sanders going to you guys because I believe if he's there, that's just what's going to happen naturally. Mm-hmm. But I really think that pick should be Will Howard because of Chip Kelly. I mean, that's just me. I think Will is more than deserved to be the pick for you guys and just lock in. But I think if you go and I think Will's gonna be in the first round.
Wow.
I think it's just too much to like about him at this point in time. But I think the Chip Kelly pick is gonna come later, and that's probably when you're gonna see 3rd round pick Jalen Milroe is gonna be Las Vegas Raiders.
I was gonna say that, but so you see Jalen Milroe fitting with a Chip Kelly that probably, I understand what you're saying, the mobility factor that he's going to give that Chip Kelly offense, but like, you don't think accuracy can be an issue for Chip Kelly? Because I know
after watching those games, I don't think it's an accuracy issue, and I think scouts are going to come away the same way and not lower Jalen Milroe just because of the Senior Bowl. I think they're going to go back and watch the film like I did and be like, "There's something here to this kid," and people are just crapping over because of the. I mean, that's a lot of change for Jalen to have dealt with, man. New coach, new system, offensive coordinator left for the Seahawks, like. I got Ryan Williams as a freshman who was a phenom, and then he gets covered up, and I'm throwing to my tight end the rest of the season. I got Justice Haynes and the other kid that were supposed to be like beast of running backs. They didn't show up throughout the season, and it was all on Jalen, man. And I kind of feel bad after watching the film. Like, damn, if I was in Jalen's shoes, I'd be turning off the media up until I got drafted because they're going to crap all over him, and it's just a false narrative. But I think he's a perfect fit for what Chip wants to do. But I'll give you kind of like a 1B to that is Dylan Gabriel, and here's why. I think the attractiveness of Dylan Gabriel is that he can come in and run any system, and he's always had success no matter where he's gone. One thing he even said himself is I can pride myself on saying that when I went to UCF, I left it better than how I came into it. Oklahoma beat Texas last year, who was a top 4 team, and he did it by himself. I left it better than how they are right now. Went to Oregon. He left it better than how Bo Nix left it. They had an undefeated season until they got beat from Ohio State. So I think that's attractive a lot for a quarterback, right? But then also he can give you the mobility. And then if you want to bring Marcus Mariota in there just as like a Chip called Marcus Mariota to ask about Dylan Gabriel. Marcus Mariota and Dylan Gabriel's family and him are like this. Over the years, they built a really strong relationship. So if I was Marcus, I'd be like, Chip, I'm not coming. I'm about to take this deal with the Commanders. Go get Dylan, and I can tell you everything you need to know about him, and he can be what you wanted me to be when you were with the Philadelphia Eagles. So take this as kind of like a second coming of what I was, except he just doesn't have the height that I have. So I could kind of see the wheels being turned in Chip's mind. Like, well, I did have DTR, who they said was undersized, and I made it work. Like, why couldn't I do it with Dylan and kind of defy the odds with how creative that we can scapegoat to Dylan with the running game that I have, which is going to be great for his development. And I know he can come in and run my spread offense because Will Stein did something similar in Oregon. So I can see that honestly being 1A and 1B. It's like Jalen Milroe, Dylan Gabriel. If it happened, I wouldn't be surprised. And I would think that would be a great fit on what Chip wants to do. So if he went outside of that, man, I'd kind of be like, well, this wasn't a Chip Kelly input at all. They were going with the next best available quarterback. So I think those two guys for sure.
I feel like the free agency will let us know exactly what the Raiders are going to do at quarterback. If they let's say if they hand out a big contract to a quarterback, then I don't see us taking a quarterback in the first round. But
I feel that.
You know what I mean? They're not going to try to trade up and get a quarterback. But if for whatever reason, if like let's say we get a Marcus Mariota or some guy on the cheap, then we can expect to take a guy in the first round, maybe. But because man, you have Will Howard in the first round.
Yeah.
That's
Jackson
tough.
Dart.
Will
Howard over Jackson Dart. That's crazy.
But I did hear, I've heard people say he's as high as day 2.
I can see day 2.
Day 2,
I can see him.
He's, the second round, he's getting a little bit of buzz right now. But Jalen Milroe, you see him going in the third round, third round,
if not higher. Yeah, I don't think his draft stock moved as much as what the pundits are talking about on Twitter. Yeah,
because the combine too hasn't happened, all that stuff. So
yeah, he's gonna destroy the combine.
Yeah,
bro, it's gonna be
if he we'll see if he throws.
If he comes out of there with benching the most out of all the quarterbacks. He's probably going to be the fastest out of all the quarterbacks. He's probably going to throw the ball the furthest out of the quarterbacks. Like, he's going to kill all those drills. But what Jalen did, he immediately went to California and worked with a quarterback coach. So right after the Senior Bowl, right after the game, he had his bags packed and he was heading to California. So he's doing all the right things, man. I just feel bad with the negative press that he's getting, but I don't see why people don't think that he can make all the throws. I mean, sometimes he has some of the prettiest and fastest throws that come out. I can tell you one thing, he doesn't get his receivers killed. He does not throw hospital balls. If anything, he'll throw it on the route and stop that guy from that safety coming down about to get blown up. He did that several times on film, but it's not the sexy throw, but it's a scout rep from what we see, right? Wow, that was impressive that it came out that fast. You saved your receiver, and you're trying to advance the ball upfield. People are enamored with Jackson Dart because he can throw it down the field 70 times a game, but that's not Jalen Milroe's style. His style is always to win, and if he's going to keep it in his hands and run the ball, I mean, he's a tank of a dude. I mean, I don't know if there's videos out him throwing without a shirt on. You're like, damn, he looks like a linebacker throwing the ball. So
yeah.
I mean, people are not going to want to tackle Jalen Milroe.
Man, that'd be crazy, man. What that would look like a Chip Kelly offense. But I think he's probably, if he does come to the Raiders, I think he probably sit maybe a year behind another quarterback. I don't think he's gonna. Do you think he's gonna start right away? No, I don't see that really.
I think Pete is the best at knowing when a quarterback is ready, man. I think his track record says that. So Pete's known to go in free agency and go get a guy and bridge the gap for a little bit. But I think he also knows when it's time and we need somebody when they're ready, I'm not going to just keep them in the bottle and just say, you got to wait your turn next year. Like, we're going to get him out there and give some reps. Like, and he's the best person to encourage a young guy to go out there and continue to do well. Hey, man, you threw an interception? That's fine. That's fine. What we're going to do here, we're going to run the ball about 15 times to get you ready to go. All right? Go run the ball 15 times, turn over, get back out there in the third series. Jalen Milroe throws a bomb downfield. And then all the Raider Nation is happy and like, all right, well, we maybe got something here. So all you guys want to see is just like any other team, upward trajectory, trust in the coaches, but you just want to see what the light at the end of the tunnel is. And, I think Pete is at least going to try to give you that, and Chip's going to be able to be creative and run what you guys need to keep that young guy comfortable too. So I don't see this being a Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell type situation. Really and truly, if there's going to be a bridge quarterback, if you guys don't go in free agency, it's going to be Aiden O'Connell off the gate, and then it's going to be the next young guy. So I think you guys probably see the writing on the wall with him. I mean, he's a good guy to come in and get you a couple of wins. He's Gardner Minshew. That's what his career is going to be, is Gardner Minshew. He's pretty good quarterback, does it?
Jackson Dart?
No, Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you see him as a bridge quarterback for the Raiders though, with Chip Kelly coming into here? I mean, that's going to be tough. His days might be numbered too. I mean, that might be the hard truth that some of these Raider fans don't. I mean, a lot of Raider Nation don't want to hear, because obviously, he's been here since he's been drafted. But
yeah, I don't know if you can
fit the Chip Kelly offense.
He doesn't, but what he has for Chip Kelly is understanding who the players are that are going to be out there playing, right? So he's the closest thing to a coach that knows Chip, that knows the players that are out there. So for me, it's like Aiden O'Connell knows the Jacoby Myers and the Michael Mayers and the Brock Bowers, and he can ask him like, how's he like his route here? How's he like the touch point on the ball when it comes out? Like, we need you for that. We need you to help with that aspect to help me understand. I don't think you just blow up the whole ship and not know what that is, and then you're trying to get to know your players, and they're like, we never really had an offense like this, and now you're trying to make me run a 15-yard dig when I'm used to running 5-yard digs, and the ball comes out this way in the last offense. Like, I think you kind of going to have to shave some of what you know and what they're used to in the first year, and then get them used to that. And the only person that can bridge that gap is probably Aiden. So, from my perspective.
Hey, Severe, you're not gonna like this. If we pick up Justin Fields in free agency, we're drafting Jalen Rowe. We're drafting Jalen Rowe. It's gonna be official.
I mean, I've already kind of resigned myself to thinking we're going to probably take a run at Justin Fields. I've already kind of mentally prepared myself for that disappointment.
Oh, you think so? The Steelers came out. They said they're getting rid of Russell Wilson, so I would be thinking that they're going to stick with Justin now.
Yeah, but I think they already think they also kind of said that they're not too high on Justin Fields either. But one quick point though, just kind of because I know Dante talked about Dylan Gabriel, and this could be something that works in Dylan Gabriel's favor, but it also could be something that works against Dylan Gabriel. Is that when Dylan Gabriel was leaving? I want to say when he was leaving UCF, he had committed to go to UCLA in the transfer portal, and everything was signed, sealed, and delivered. And the night before he was supposed to, or the morning he was supposed to enroll in his classes, which would have made everything official, he reneged on the agreement, and then he went to Oklahoma. So that could either work for him, where Chip Kelly wanted him in the past, like, this is finally my chance to get you, or it could work against him, like, we had an agreement, and on the morning you were supposed to make everything official, you kind of left me at the altar. So, like, I don't know if I could trust you, as a person. So, I mean, we'll kind of see how Chip Kelly feels about that.
That's interesting. I don't remember that story, but yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, and a lot could go into that too. I mean, it could have been the school administration figuring out that, like, his transcripts didn't come over correctly either, and they're like, we got to back out, and you got to find somewhere else too. So there's always kind of funny little things like that do happen. And then also, remember, he didn't have that good of a relationship with Dante Moore when he got there, because he committed, and then Dante Moore, like a couple of days later, committed, and he looked at Dan Lannon and was like, what the F are we doing here, man? Like, I thought I was the guy. And then Chip is like, that Dante Moore was my guy. You know what I'm saying? And you treated him like, I don't know. We could get into like this funky rabbit hole with that, but that is hilarious that did happen. I don't think anybody really, after this week, I think NFL teams really fell in love with how Dylan is, because he garnered so much respect from everybody. But, you learn and grow, but that was 2 years ago. So I wonder what really happened in that situation. But that's an interesting point, though, for sure.
Yeah. I remember it's like January 2000. And I remember like, man, I was excited. I was watching. I spent the whole week watching UCF highlights. So like, man, we finally got us we got the quarterback. Like, we got the guy that's gonna. And then it's like, he backs out. He's going to Oklahoma. I think something happened with his offensive coordinator or his coach from UCF got the job at Oklahoma.
Josh Heupel went to Tennessee.
Yes. And so that's why he backed out. It was like, it was a whole thing. But I know we wanted to get into the. I know we had to. Speaking of Russell Wilson and the Steelers, Jay Glazer, he was a guy who's been known to be very close with Mike Tomlin, and so he's a very reliable source when it comes to Steelers news, especially regarding personnel. He had some very interesting things to say about Russell Wilson, and it could mean that he's a guy that is on the open market.
Yeah, here goes a clip.
Of a guy like that, Russell Wilson obviously has had a long career and going back to free agency. Pete Carroll, I mean, this is kind of connecting dots.
That ain't gonna happen.
That one's over, right?
That's not gonna happen.
That one's over. Do you think it's more likely Russ goes back to the Steelers? Because the ending there was also a little weird too. So just a new start for Russ.
I think you'll see a new start for Russell somewhere else.
Yeah.
Who is the starting quarterback of the Steelers? Do you think it's Justin, or do you think it's somebody?
I don't know. And again, like, these guys are the Senior Bowl. I was texting my Tomlin the other day. He's the Senior Bowl. Yeah, like, they're thinking about so they can compartmentalize only so much. So Senior Bowl, right? And then all of a sudden next week they have combine meetings, right? And so they're going to have to start talking about free agency and what's out there. But I don't think they know who their starting quarterback's going to be yet.
One of a guy like that, Russell Wilson obviously has had a long.
So that's pretty much Jay Glazer he does have a good relationship. I guess he's really close with Mike Tomlin. So it's pretty good source. I mean, Jay Glazer is he's an insider, NFL insider, but especially with the Steelers, he's gonna know. But it's kind of funny, like he's like, it's not gonna happen with Pete Carroll and he shut down that quick, and he didn't really sound too confident that Justin Fields would be a guy coming back to the Steelers as well. So he was like, I don't know. Justin Fields wants to come back though, just as much as Russell Wilson wanted to come back. I know he was clear on the media that he wanted to come back to the Steelers, but
yeah, he posted a picture of him like in a tunnel with all the teammates, and a lot of people are speculating that like he wanted to come back to the Steelers. So, I mean, I see Justin as a Steelers guy, like took his lumps and his bumps, and he understands the talent that's on that team and that they're going to continuously build. But I mean, Arthur Smith stayed too, which is a great, if you're gonna tug for somebody to stay, I mean, obviously Arthur was, a coach of both of those guys, and maybe wants to take a flyer on Justin being the starter. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to read into that. I mean, Russ obviously is not going to be there. They've already come out and said that, but maybe they go with Justin and they draft another quarterback. And, I know we talked about Tyler Shuck and those guys, or like a Curtis Rourke that just came off of, I mean, obviously he played with a bad knee all season. I would absolutely throw up in my mouth if that happened. I would hate this. I would hate the Steelers if they took Curtis Rourke, knowing the type of quarterback that he possibly can be. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation. And then, I mean, the point about Russ coming over to the Raiders is let that ship sail. I mean,
right.
I mean, if Pete does anything, Russ has to come into the intention that, like, you're not going to be the starter for very long. If you are, it's going to be the next man up. And Russ's mentality is always, I want to go lead a team. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's necessarily, I wouldn't say ever, but I don't think Russ's mentality is to be a backup right now. I think maybe in the next 2 years, once he realizes, like, this is what my career has become, and I still want to play football, but also want to help out. I don't think he would be a bad teammate, but I mean, why did Justin start after winning as many games as he did and was leading in rushing touchdowns for the Steelers, and they weren't necessarily losing? It's because Russell Wilson was still competing to be the starter, and they needed a change. If he wasn't doing that, Justin would have been the starter all year long, and I still think they would have had the same success, if not a little bit better, as they started to open up the offense to him a little bit. That's just my 2 cents, but I don't think he's ready to take a mentorship role right now. So Pete, stay away from that, man. Your history with Russ goes very, very deep, but you don't need to continue his story. So
right, I think that ship sailed away when Bevel didn't get hired at OC. I think a lot of that talk really started because Bevel was like one of the candidates that the Raiders interviewed, who was the former OC for Russell Wilson back in the Seahawks days. Once that didn't happen, then like, okay, now that connection's kind of gone, but people were still kind of talking about it. Even I was kind of like thinking about it too as well, maybe as a bridge quarterback. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's probably going to come in here. He's going to want to be the starter moving forward. I mean, but I mean, that's a lot of quarterbacks' mindset. I mean, like, if you're going to want to be the guy, like, I don't know, like that's just naturally, like, I think any competitor would want to be the guy, but yeah, man, we'll see how it shakes out.
Some guys embrace it, like Alex Smith, and they ultimately it's kind of a cool thing, I think, when you think about it with Alex Smith, because he was always decent, and then he won a lot in the second half of his career, but nobody thought that Alex Smith was going to be an MVP candidate. But when you played the Chiefs and things, like, they're not going to be any pushover. But it is a cool story to say at the end of the day. And I know it's especially sweet for you guys because you're in the same division as them, to be like, would Patrick Mahomes still be the same if he didn't have Alex Smith? So Alex Smith always has that cool story in his back pocket. Like, maybe not, maybe so. It's not for me to determine what Pat's career was after. I just know that I was a huge integral part of getting him ready every single Sunday. So
perfect situation.
That's a cool story in his own.
Yeah. When you think of Patrick Mahomes, like as great as the talent as he was, he did mention that the Jets were interested in drafting him in that draft. And I think they were like pick number 6 in that draft.
Right.
Imagine Patrick Mahomes going to the Jets. Probably a bust. I mean, just the way they develop players at that position. It's just not going to work out.
Yeah.
But he goes to the Chiefs. Like you said, they had Alex Smith, perfect bridge guy, perfect veteran. He didn't start right away. He has Andy Reid as his head coach, the quarterback guru. Yeah. Like everything just worked out. And then you combine his talent, the rest is history. I mean, he's been to every AFC Championship game the last I don't know how many years
as a starter, his whole career? 6 years as a starter, 6 years straight.
That's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah, that's nasty work. That's that's an amazing stat. And again, like what a lot of these teams, Alex Smith is to Patrick Mahomes as Marcus Mariota is to Jaden Daniels. I mean, literally, if Jaden Daniels goes out there and tears it up again, let's say they win a Super Bowl next year, Mariota stayed. People are going to look at Dan Quinn and like, how integral was Marcus Mariota? This is almost Alex Smith-ish.
Right.
Yeah, those little things that – let's think about Alex Smith and Marcus Mariota's career out of college. Like, Alex Smith was the shit at Utah. You know what I'm saying? And then Marcus Mariota just won a Heisman. He was just a step above that. But both of them came in with, like, that mentality that they were going to be the best thing coming when he went to the 49ers. And their careers just didn't pan out. But Marcus Mariota's never been like a pushover quarterback. I always said he's going to come in and win you a couple of games because that's just who he is. But it's almost the same trajectory. Take this young guy that's known as a gunslinger that's otherworldly with everything, but we got to bring him back down to earth and get him prepared every single week. There's none better than Marcus Mariota and Alex Smith to fit in that equation for both of those guys, man. So how can we keep that going? It could be Russell Wilson. That could be the next. He could be the next guy for that, man. Except he has the accolades, which would be a really cool story for him. Is like, I'm a mentor, and if we bring a Jalen Miro type in or Dylan Gabriel would be fantastic because he's already being compared to Russell Wilson. Just imagine how it would be, man. Like, you had your undefeated season, you're the next best thing. Everybody's worried about your height. I'm short. Let's just bring you back down every single game and get you where you got to be. I'm ready to mentor you as the guy that I can pass the torch to mold the NFL into something that they haven't seen from a guy of our stature, right? So that would be really cool for him. But Russ ain't ready to. He's not ready for that role yet. So, but his career didn't go down the path of those two either. So.
Was Urban Meyer Utah? That was Urban Meyer Utah, or was he still at Bowling Green? Or was Urban Meyer Utah already when Alex Smith was there?
Ooh,
that's a good question.
Hold on.
I think it was Urban Meyer.
Let me look that
up.
If
we've learned nothing, don't draft quarterbacks coached by Urban Meyer. if you learn nothing else, if Urban Meyer coached your quarterback, don't not draft him.
Let me see. Utah.
Urban Meyer coached Alex Smith.
He was at Bowling Green before Utah, but I don't remember when.
No, he coached him at Utah.
Oh, damn.
Because when Utah, okay, damn, yeah. Urban Meyer had a terrible track record of quarterbacks translating.
Hey, I mean, just think about this. Alex Smith had 47 touchdowns, 5,203 yards the year that he got drafted. God, that's a hell of a season, bro.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he did coach him.
That's a hell of a season.
He did.
Yeah, there's a fan. I remember this picture. It's a famous picture of them.
Okay, cool.
Of him hugging them at the Tostitos Bowl after they won.
Yeah. But also, around the nation, man, to continue the segment here, man. Gruden just recently had a talk with Max Crosby. and he shared a story about how Max got drafted. And it's kind of interesting because it looked like he was a little passive aggressive a little bit when talking about who should take credit for the Raiders' bad drafting and good drafting. But here goes Gruden talking about how he drafted Max Crosby.
Football games. I'm going to give you all the good. So Mayock is the GM. I'm the head coach. Mayock, of course, drafted all the good players, and I drafted all the bad ones. But anyways, I have an assistant named Jeff Leonardo. Yep. I swear to God, Jeff has been with me. He drove the bus on Monday Night Football. Yep. Jeff is the only guy I know that watches Mid-American Conference football games on Tuesday. Fucking guy never says a word. All he does is drive me to and from work. Right. He walks in one day and he goes, "There's a son of a bitch in Eastern Michigan. His name's Max Crosby." I go, "Yeah, okay, see you, Jeff." 2 weeks later, there's a motherfucker in Eastern Michigan. His name's Max Crosby. I swear to God, we get into the draft process. He walks in, he goes, "The guy Max Crosby's better than all these guys." Yeah. And we're taking Pharaoh with the 4th pick. You know, we're signing defensive ends. Jeff Leonardo is the guy.
He's the one.
No, I mean,
that's what he told me too.
He stayed up my ass for 6 months.
Wow.
I mean, he absolutely loved you. So what do you say to Jeff Leonardo?
Jeff Leonardo, I love you, dude. I mean,
just think, you would have probably ended up being a free agent. You'd probably be in a Canadian.
No, I would probably be in prison. But yeah, we made it.
No, but Mike showed his hand though. It was during the combine because I knew through my ways. Yeah. But Mike showed his hand when Max ran his 40. The way he reacted to Max running, I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna be a Raider. And I told you.
He told me that since day one. He goes, Gruden and Mayock. Yeah. I'm like, they haven't said shit to me. I'm not. And he told me that from day one, and you have the text. Yeah. I have it on my phone. After day 2, I didn't get drafted. I'm like,
do you remember?
I got in my car, I'm fucking livid. I'm like, I don't know where I'm gonna go. And I texted him, I said, Raiders got 103 and 106. They better fucking take me tomorrow.
You said.
I said they're gonna take me tomorrow. I have the text to this day, and then 105, I hear your fucking voice. I see 510. I'm like, Oakland, California. I'm like, no fucking way. And I hear your voice. I'm like, and I told you on the phone
with the Oakland number.
I'm your guy, and they've got that shit on video. I'm your guy. I told I'm the one.
I had a rookie orientation. I made these films of my rookies because I wanted the veterans to see all the badasses that we drafted. Yeah. So I got a video of Max benching about 100 pounds in Eastern Michigan. I said, you guys got to get stronger. And there's Max straight 135 pounds. People are like, you drafted this guy? This fucking dude. Yeah.
And then he turned the film on. And I was like,
you're the best, man. You are the freaking man. But Jeff.
Yeah, man. So that was a cool little story about Max getting drafted by his John Gruden's driver. I think that's who Jeff
said,
is,
like,
right?
Yeah, like his assistant, but yeah, his driver's got to drive him too.
Yeah, which is crazy. But seemed a little passive aggressive when he said, "Oh, I draft all the bad players, and Mike Mayock drafts all the good players." But in the same sentence, he says, "Oh, yeah, we drafted Cleveland Farrell number 4." I'm like,
yeah,
who was a part of that decision, man? Like, come on, you can't be, at the end of the day, he's making all the decisions at the end of the day when he was running. But that's the Raiders in the past. But I thought it was a cool little clip. But I appreciate everybody coming through. Make sure to clock in, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Man, we got Dante in the building, Eastcoast Gridiron. Before you leave, man, this draft is full of running backs, but we didn't get into D linemen. Before you head out, like, what are D linemen that you like? Because that's going to be another position where I see the Raiders probably drafting, because there's going to be plenty of options for the Raiders to get in this draft. I mean, who's a guy that you can see being drafted, or a guy that you like coming out? Or a few guys, if you can mention them.
Well, before you answer that, just like let the people know he's not that high on Abdul Carter. So that's like, he's not that high on Abdul Carter. But there's another guy that you really love that you said is better.
You're not high on Abdul Carter?
No, I'm not. I mean, I don't like one-dimensional players. And I'm not saying that he's not an otherworldly, edge-bending, get to the quarterback type guy, but there's like 3 or 4 guys that I would put ahead of him right now, to be honest. And there's a Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M is an absolute demon, and it's so funny. We got looked at like we had 10 heads when we said he's going to be a top 10 pick probably in this draft. And people are like, what? Y'all guys don't know football. Yeah, after this week at the Senior Bowl, everybody's like, yeah, that dude is for real. I'm like, because y'all watched the box score. Dude had 1.5 sacks, but you watch the film and he's a beast, man. Like, he's going to have that Trayvon Walker type hype, but he's going to be all of that. Yeah,
I was about to ask you. I know you were high. You liked the Trayvon Walker pick. I know, even though they, Aiden Hutchinson.
I didn't like it at first. Yeah, I didn't like it at first, but I can't deny that the last 2 years he had 10 sacks apiece. So when people say like, "Oh, he hasn't been that good," I mean, what do you define as good? Because like, to me, that's pretty damn good on a porous team. I mean, that's not the 15, 20 sacks that you were expecting this guy to get as a number 1 overall pick. But anybody would kill to have a guy that could put up 10 sacks a year on their squad. Like, let's be real. Doesn't matter where he got drafted. That production is production. And to have 20 sacks in 2 years is pretty damn good, man. So, like, give that guy time. Not everybody's this is one of those things where it's like not everything is built in the lab like you think it is. Like, don't be mad at him for having a beast of a combine and rising up draft boards. Be mad at the fact that your team missed out on getting a guy that had a production of 10 sacks a year at this point. Like, don't be salty. just is what it is. But he's not a bad player. But yeah, Shamar Stewart definitely is one of my favorite. Probably my favorite out of everybody, man, is Donovan Ezeraku, who had a crazy Senior Bowl week too. But Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College can do both really well. He can get to the quarterback as much as he can stop the run. And I value that more than an Abdul Carter. Unfortunately, I'm just sorry. That's what I want my edge rusher to do. I don't want them to be one-dimensional. I want them to be able to handicap my offense in a positional need however we can get it. Sacks are fine, but getting a sack on first down and then just converting on second down, getting a first down didn't really make your sack really matter. Like, unfortunately, sometimes sacks and pressures can be the most overrated stat in football. But I could tell you one thing that I've been telling people about the Philadelphia Eagles. The reason why they lost that Super Bowl a couple years ago is because they couldn't tackle. Guess what they did? They went and got Zach Bond, who is a beast and secure tackles. So tell me that you'd rather have a guy that gets sacks over a guy that can get tackles. You'd be out your mind. Tackles is the golden thing on a defense. I don't care what anybody says. It's a proven commodity to have on your team. And a tackle for loss is better than a sack as well. So it's statistically, it's just better because you're tackling your running back behind the line of scrimmage, not tackling your quarterback because he slipped when he got the ball. So it's just proven. Anais Peebles from Virginia Tech, a smaller guy.
Well, you're saying a tackle for loss is better than a sack?
In a lot of aspects, yes. I mean, in a proven atmosphere, if a guy gets tackled for a loss, it puts a lot more pressure on the offense to call their next play versus getting a sack where you could throw it or pass it. So basically, if you look at it like this, Pharaoh, if I'm an offensive coordinator and I just got a tackle for a loss on a toss play, guess what I'm probably not going to do? Probably not going to run the ball again. But I can tell you what, it's a more increase that I'm going to pass the ball now versus a sack of, let's say, 1 or 2 yards. You don't know if I'm going to run or pass the ball. So, I think it's a higher.
Sacks are not one for the most part. I don't think sacks are like 1 or 2 yard losses. I think they're more than that.
I mean, it could be, but I'm.
And it's in a hit to a quarterback. You don't think that matters too? Like you sacking a quarterback, hitting the quarterback. You don't think?
Well, if you're pressuring, if you're pressuring Josh Allen on Lamar Jackson, how much is that really affecting them in the game? It doesn't really. And I think when you get to the NFL, that pressures and sacks are lower on the totem pole than a tackle for loss as far as, shutting down the momentum of your team. I still think the Lamar Jacksons and the Josh Allen still get a first down, regardless if that happens, versus if you tackle Derrick Henry for a 5-yard loss, they're not going to run the ball again. So the only thing that you got to stop, or you could probably convince your defense into stopping the pass the next time. So that's just how I look at it, like on a percentage basis. Like it makes your play calling, less robust when you get a tackle for loss than a sack, because it's still up in the air of what you can do on your offense. And I mean, it's statistically, yeah, it's always been overrated when you look at it, because if I get a sack, right, most of the time you could just throw for the first down and then it didn't really matter. But again, now you're forcing your team into just one side of the ball when you have a tackle for a loss, like when your linebacker gets in the backfield and stops a Derrick Henry type.
But then, like, let's say if you do get a sack, right, then that makes them think about putting an extra man back there to block, which means less people to throw to. Also, it's a hit on the quarterback. Also, they're going to think twice to maybe have like a 7-step drop back. You know what I mean? They're going to want to get the ball quickly out of the quarterback's hands, which means I don't know. I guess I'm thinking of it from that perspective, but I hear what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's where pass pro comes into play too, because you can just easily slide their running back that was on the right side that was rolling out in the flat and have him come and get that guy next time. So it's not really that much of an effect, versus like you're not going to do that with a run play, right? There's no pass pro. Like, your run play is what your run play is. You can only change the pieces a little bit. So it kind of takes that play out of the playbook for you. So from like offensive coordinator standpoint, that's how I always look at like tackles for loss, especially a bad one. It's like, it's kind of like, we're not running that shit again. Like, get that out the playbook, versus like, I'm going to take a sack on any type of play as long as the protection wasn't set right or somebody stunts in. It's not going to slow the momentum down. Maybe, for that drive, but you don't throw that play out the window. You just adjust for the pass protection on the next time you see that defensive front. So, that's how I think about those things. But I don't think there's any wrong answer for that. It's just on the percentage basis when I look at the analytics. That's what the analytics tell me, and then that's where my coaching brain comes in and says, I'd rather throw out that running play than the pass play I got sacked on, because I can adjust for it easier on the pass play.
So you're for sure the biggest Max Crosby fan, for sure, because he's a leader in that statistical category, tackle for loss. I think in the NFL at his position, like, he's always in the top. Yeah, he's pretty good at that. So I'm
a huge two-way guy like that. I mean, I like Max Crosby because he's able to do that. I like, even on the offensive side of the ball, like George Kittle is my favorite tight end because he can block as well as he can catch. Like, I find that more valuable. I'm outside of the pocket quarterback. Like, I'm not expecting you to run like Lamar Jackson, but shoot, if nobody's open and you can open your offense, then run the ball. Like, so that stuff is just more valuable to me, and it plugs in holes and deficiencies you may not have to worry about later, right? Like, the Max Crosby, if you have a guy that's not the best tackling linebacker at the second level above him, and he's a better coverage linebacker, then you notice that, like, Max might be able to peel off on that rush and stop, or rushing the quarterback and stop the run instead, and save that guy from, you guys screaming at the TV having to think, oh, my outside linebacker just missed the tackle, but you got your security blanket in place. At least you know what I'm saying? At least you have that deficiency so he can do his best thing, which is playing coverage at the linebacker position. So I'd like just having that versatility, to be honest. And like Donovan Ezeraku definitely gives you that for sure.
Well, when I
what about Landon Jackson?
Yeah, go ahead.
Landon Jackson. He did not have a good week.
Oh, damn.
he was. I hate throwing this word in there
He's
because
super
people
raw
always.
that.
Yeah, people interpret this word the wrong way, but I'll talk about just like in a football pursuit sense. He's kind of a lazy player, like Ivan Pace was. Like on film, Ivan Pace was like, sometimes I'm in there, sometimes I'm not. It is what it is. I'll decide when I want to show up. That's what it looked like on film. But Landon did not have a good week. In the game, he did. He actually had a strip sack on Jackson Dart in the game. So he may just be a really bad practice player. But again, I go back to the game film. The game film tells me that very consistent tackler of the football, can rush the passer, has amazing size for the linebacker position, and actually a very vocal leader on the field. You heard that all week long, even though he wasn't having the best performance in practice. So, I think Landon Jackson, he could be good, but I mean, there's obviously some things you got to clear up when you're not a quarterback, right? You're not going to be able to get those excuses.
So do you think he projects more of as like a 4-3 defensive end or a 3-4 like outside linebacker type?
3-4 outside linebacker for sure. I don't think he should be playing D end at all. More so, don't have him engage with the offensive line because it's going to throw off everything that he does because he's not the fastest guy, right? And the one thing that could throw you off is just a chip, and then it messes up your whole psyche on where you're trying to pursue the ball. Adrian Cooper last year, I think you can line him up anywhere. Doesn't care. Like, in my face, I don't care. I'm looking to make a play. Landon Jackson's not that type. He's that, that Zach Thomas type of linebacker. I'd like to see him at middle linebacker. Like, Zach Thomas wasn't going to rush you or do anything, but he's going to tackle you. That's Landon Jackson. Like, if I see a hole, I'm going to rush and get the sack. But it's got to be pretty obvious for me to know that that's a lane to move in. So I think that's Landon Jackson in a nutshell.
Yeah, he's huge. He's like 6'6", 6'7", right?
Yeah. He's got alopecia, so he looks like an absolute serial killer too. So
is that? No, he does. Yeah, looks like.
I was like, you got no soul in your eyes, man.
Looks like Zaz from Batman. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, no, but when I mentioned defensive line, I mean, I guess this is a Raider fan in me. I'm thinking about like
D tackle.
Defensive tackle. I was thinking someone in the interior, especially a nose tackle.
Yeah. No, is there anybody? A nice Peebles from Virginia Tech. He's undersized.
Yeah, I heard he had a good week too.
Amazing, and he was on our watch list, so we believed in him. So this is a guy that played at Duke with Dwayne Carter, who got drafted last year, with RJ Oben, practicing against guys like Riley Leonard. So, a great guy too. I always like to say when we interview these guys, like it's a character thing too. Like you want great character on your team, people that are going to understand the mission. So I could see him being like a perfect fit for you guys now that I'm thinking about it, because I think that he's going to embrace what you guys do. And then obviously take a little bit from Max Crosby and just, create that family dynamic where it's like, we're about to go to war for you. He's like that. Like we asked him, what you going to say when you get a sack on Riley Leonard? He said, I'm gonna just tell him I love him and then move on to the next play. Like, I think that's real. That's a really cool dynamic, with him. It's like business is business. It's all love at the end of the day. So, but he's got a killer mentality, man. Like, to be undersized, he's able to dip around those centers and them just not know what to do when he blows through the A gap, man. Like, he was so dominant on run plays and getting to the quarterback the full week. I had nothing but great things to say about him, even despite his size. What's another? Walter Nolan, obviously from Ole Miss. I wasn't the highest on him, but brother, man, let me tell you, he's a serial killer. Like, straight serial killer too. Like, he's definitely a first round pick, man. If he falls in the second round and you guys need a D tackle or something like that, he's definitely the man. He's still young. He's, I think he was just a junior this year. Being at the Senior Bowl, that's in high regard when those underclassmen get those invites too. But yeah, he was all about his business the full week. I mean, getting in people's faces, like coaches loved it. Getting in offensive lineman faces where they were ready to fight him. So Yeah, he's a beast, man. He's got definitely a chip on his shoulder, and he knows that he's better than everybody. So, without even saying it,
I'm thinking about, like, I don't know, maybe this might be just too perfect a situation. I'm just thinking like maybe the 3rd or 4th round, because everybody's talking about how this group of, you know, defensive linemen in this draft there's a lot of depth. You know, I guess the same thing you could say for the running back position. I'm like, if that sweet spot for the Raiders, because we have a couple of 3rds this draft, so I'm thinking like we could probably grab
nice people should be there. I mean,
in the 3rd round.
Yeah, he's so good, but it's his undersizedness that's what's going to be like kind of a, you know, people are going to kind of push off of it.
Yeah,
but it's not a knock on him if he gets chosen in the 3rd round. It's just it's going to be running back heavy in the 2nd round. Let's just call it what it is. Like if you need one of these extra quarterbacks, or if you need a running back, that's where they're going. If you need an offensive lineman, that's where they're going, right? 3rd round is where you're going to start getting into the meat potatoes of everything. I think the 3rd and 4th round this year is going to be the most important for every single team in the NFL. Like, if you don't get your guy in those 2 rounds, then you just screwed up. If you guys could get a nice Peebles in the 3rd round, home run hitter. I think he's one of the steals of the draft for sure. That people just don't know how dominant he's going to be. You know, and I felt the same way about what's that kid that you guys drafted out of Arizona State? I actually have a funny video of him on the Senior Bowl a couple of years ago. He had said something to the guy like, "You know what I did to you? I've been doing this shit to you for 5 years." Nesta J. Silvera.
Oh, okay.
Is he still with the team? I think I think
we
Seahawks.
I think we cut him. Yeah, we cut him. Yeah.
Oh, you cut him? Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people, a lot of Raider fans loved him. So, but a nice Peebles, like, he strike me because he's sub 300, right? So is he more? He's more like a 3 tech, right? Like you would say.
No, he's more of a nose tackle. I mean, he can play 0 for sure. So, you could slide him to 3 tech. You could probably slide him to 5-eye. I've seen him play that a little bit in practice. So
yeah, I would think 3 tech or 5-eye would be like, especially like 280, like 292, something like that. 290, 295.
Yeah. He would be really good in that bear front, that traditional bear front that people want to do, where your nose tackle can slide the 5-eye and you know, be right over that guy. So I think, you know, I've seen him play 3 to 0. So he's just a traditional defensive tackle that can play anywhere. But when you want to put him in those packages where you want to rush the quarterback, you slide him to 5-eye and let him do his thing. So I think that's where you're going to see him most of the time for sure.
Man, hey, go ahead, Severe.
No, I was gonna say, because I know we're looking for like a traditional, traditional nose, like somebody to replace John Jenkins, like a big 330-pound like fat boy in the middle of your defense. Like that. I think that's what, you know. I think that's kind of what I'm looking for us, because looking at, you know, what Adam Butler does best, than what we was able to see last year, later in the year from Lualu. I think those are 2 guys that are more of the, you know, 3 techniques, you know, 5-eye kind of guys, rush the passer types. Not really, you know, two gappers. Is like, you know, that guy is going to block up. We need a space eater, basically. You know,
I think one guy that I liked, and he was pretty good this Senior Bowl week, but his film was even better, and I think he'll fly under the radar in like the 4th or 5th round. But I think he's an absolute steal for a team. It's Ty Robinson from Nebraska too. He's a traditional defensive tackle as well. Very good size. Really good with his hands. Like, if you're like a hands technician type of guy, not the fastest, but he's definitely going to move some building blocks out the way to get to where he's got to get to. But definitely a run stopping defensive tackle. I think he's pretty good, and every time I've watched Nebraska play, he just always jumped out. Like when they had that defensive, you know, stopping the run a lot, he was always like one of the first ones there. Like that Colorado game is still one that sticks out to me. He was an absolute monster out there. So, and I mean, everybody knows how bad Colorado is up front, but like it's one thing to be bad, and it's one thing to be terrible. Like they made them look like they shouldn't even be playing,
Division
Division One,
FBS football.
Yeah, they need to be going to JUCO. They made them look like a JUCO team. So I mean, that's still a dominant performance. So and Ty Robinson's one of those guys for sure.
Oh,
man, hey man, Dante, man, appreciate you coming through. It's been a great show. East Coast Gridiron, man, definitely check them out. Doing a lot of great things. I guess before we head out, man, this is Super Bowl weekend. We got to get, before we get out of here, we gotta have a Super Bowl picks. I mean, who you got winning the Super Bowl between Kansas City and Eagles? Who you got?
You're not gonna like my pick, but I hate the Eagles more. So, I mean, because I live in this area and they're the most delusional fan base in existence.
Man,
I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan, man. I really do like everything that he does. I think he gets severely hated on, and I want to see him win one. I just, for right now, I don't see how you get past what the Chiefs want to do. DeAndre Hopkins, I feel like is going to be an X factor in that game. I mean, he's been talking about nothing like that. I've always wanted to be in this position. I've dealt with a lot of adversity in my career. I've been on several different teams, and this one just feels right. I'm healthy. I'm good. So I feel like he's about to have a hell of a game against them and really show Quinion and Cooper, Cooper DeJean and those boys like what we used to consider a top 3 wide receiver for a very long time, what that still is about. I think it's a close game, though, man. I really do think it comes down to the wire. I do think the Eagles just needed one more piece, and that was Zach Bond to help them with the tackling game. But Saquon, it's so hard to count against them, man, because it's like they're so dominant in so many different areas. But if there's a team that can show you that you're not dominant, it's always the Chiefs for whatever reason, man.
The Chiefs and the refs.
And I think this is like the Babe Ruth effect right here. You know what I'm saying? Like Babe Ruth being traded from the Red Sox to the Yankees. That's Andy Reid. You know what I'm saying? It's the Andy Reid curse.
Yeah.
As long as he's still the Chiefs coach, I don't think the Eagles get past them. But
man, I forgot about that dynamic. That sure Andy Reid is gonna want to beat his former team for sure. Damn.
Yeah. I think this is his last hurrah. I think if he wins, he retires. I think Travis retires, and they call it a day, and he rolls out in the sunset. So hopefully, there's brighter times for the AFC West ahead of you guys once that happens.
Man, I just don't want to see the Chiefs three-peat. I just don't want to see it. I just don't want to see.
I want to see it because it's. History. Even if I was a Raiders or Chargers fan or Broncos fan, right? I think what's his name said this. Oh my God, the former Lions guy that's always doing the commentary, Nate Burleson.
Oh, yeah.
He had said, as much as people hate the Chiefs and things like that, you have to consider this, that it would be really cool to tell the story about that you were there to see a team three-peat that's never been done before.
Yeah, that's true.
And I thought about it in that aspect. I was like, all right, yeah. I mean, we can all hate, but that would be very, very cool to tell your kids and be like, I was there to actually see that happen for the first time. It sucks for you guys, of course.
Yeah,
but,
I want to tell my kids that shit. I want to tell them. Hell no. I'm gonna keep that shit on the low. I don't know nothing about that.
Repeat. I didn't see that.
No, but that is crazy though. That's it's hard to win a Super Bowl. Just one.
Yeah.
To do it back to back is hard. And I know
Tom Brady never did it.
The last team before the Chiefs to win back to back Super Bowls, I think, was the Broncos with Elway.
I think it was the Broncos.
Seattle was close.
Yeah.
If they just handed the ball to Marshawn, but that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I think it might have been the Broncos, and now the Chiefs are going for a three-peat, which I don't want to see. Hopefully, the Eagles take care of business. I'm picking the Eagles. If you can't tell, I'm picking. The Eagles
I feel you.
Who you got, Severe?
Who do I want to win or who do I think is going to win? It's two different answers.
Who you think is going to win? Who you think is going to win?
The Chiefs, man. The Chiefs.
It's Mahomes, man.
Mahomes, bro. Mahomes is the best quarterback I've ever seen in my life, right? And I can't look, as much as I hate the Chiefs, you can't deny it, right? Like last year, the 49ers were better at, of the 22 positions on the field, they were better at like 17 of them. But the main one they weren't better at was quarterback. Mm-hmm. And that's all that mattered. Like Mahomes he's Patrick Mahomes, man. And now they have.
Well, we saw what happened last time. Jalen had 500 yards of total offense, and they still couldn't win. So
yeah, and now they got DeAndre Hopkins. They're mixing in Xavier Worthy, making him a weapon. Thank you, Buffalo Bills. I guess Travis Kelce is still he's gonna turn up for big. He's gonna turn up for big games. I think the player that can make the most difference in this game, and it could be like a star in the making moment, is Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter could be that disruptive in the middle.
He's sick.
But I was telling somebody else this though, right? Like, because the Chiefs are the more experienced team, and this game, so like games like this, playoff games, it benefits guys like that, these older veteran teams, because those TV timeouts are so incredibly long. So those guys, like a guy like Chris Jones, he's gonna be like rested. He's gonna be fresh as a daisy. Like all these crazy long TV timeouts, like those guys are gonna be fresh. So like that age gap, because the Eagles are fairly young team. So but that age gap not gonna make as much of a difference if you're getting all this rest. So I just think it's hard to beat Andy Reid. It's hard to beat Patrick Mahomes. As much as I'd like to see Saquon get it, like to see AJ Brown get one. My guy Quinyon, he's one of my favorite players this past draft. Be dope to see him get one. I just think it's too difficult to beat the Chiefs.
Who I think is like gonna fly under the radar and have a really good game is Kareem Hunt, man. Because for whatever reason, think about when the Chiefs kicked his ass off the team. They said, "You are never coming back here, sir. So good luck to the rest of your NFL career." And now he's back on kind of like his redemption arc. And mind you, Isaiah Pacheco is healthy, and he's still getting the majority of the carries. And I don't know, man. I think Kareem Hunt's kind of got that chip on the shoulder. Like, man, all can be forgiven if you work hard enough and, you get past your legal troubles and become a better person. So I think he's got like that little bit of a chip on his shoulder, being part of a team and seeing all his former teammates winning all them Super Bowl, all the playoff wins and Super Bowls that he wasn't a part of. You know what I'm saying? And now he's got a little bit of taste of that. And I think the game ends with this. I hate to say this because I know you guys are here, but like an Xavier Worthy 70-yard bomb after they're down from the Eagles, like in the fourth quarter, just to wrap up the whole thing. And I can't wait to see the highlights after. It's coming like a Gatorade commercial where they're going to show him lined up on the 40 and then him burning somebody in the Super Bowl for the game winner. I mean, that would make for a cool commercial, but what I'm saying? Like, I think that's going to be the type of situation that happens on like a 4 seconds left or something like that. And then we're all talking about Patrick Mahomes is greater than Tom Brady. That's going to be the narrative after this game. You already know it's coming. So
we got to keep an eye out on Jalen Carter, because I heard that he's sick right now. He's under the
that
flu,
came out today, and his teammates are getting sick.
Yeah, so it's not a good sign for the Eagles in that locker room. So hopefully they get healthy. I'm rooting for the Eagles, man. But I hear what you guys saying. I know, like, my heart wants the Eagles to win, but
same here.
You wouldn't be wrong, Pharaoh. I mean, like,
it's just
the Eagles are a really good team.
I can't say nothing to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Like, they are the winning combo. What Bill Belichick and Tom Brady was back in the day, this is what Tom Brady and Andy Reid are today. So we'll see.
This is one of the best well-matched matchups because of the fact that it's like the Chiefs are what you want your team to be, like superstar quarterback, and everybody else is just they play as a team. And then you got the Eagles who just have superstar. And can they just put it together? You know what I'm saying? It's like that's a great matchup to me. But I mean, obviously, as a Jalen Hurts guy, I want to see him get one. It's just it ain't his time, man. It's just not.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
But the thing is, though, the Eagles' winning formula has not been Jalen Hurts dominating. He's been like averaging just over 100 yards passing. It's been the Saquon Barkley show. Yeah, so that needs to continue because Jalen Hurts against this Chiefs defense and the exotic blitzes that this defensive coordinator that they got is throwing at these quarterbacks, man. Like there's a clip. There's actually a clip. It was a solid clip from it was a young QB out of Carolina, Bryce Young. And
I just bought his jersey the other day.
Man, yeah, man. He good comeback story because a lot of people were down on him and it was kind of crazy because after like a year, I don't know what's going on. Everybody wants everything to happen right now. And they're so ready to throw certain players under the bus, especially a quarterback after 1 year, especially a crazy year like he had in Carolina that first year.
We had talked about this on the last show, and I said,
we did, and he bounced back. He had a bounce.
I said,
he bounced
just
back.
wait, man. I think this dude gonna bounce back, and he did. And I was like, thank you, man. Carolina, and you know what, man? Like sometimes adversity just makes you step up and in the face of everything. Like, yeah, I understand Andy Dalton got in this car accident, but it couldn't have happened at a better time for Bryce Young to step in and take the reins back. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it was one of those things where it's like, dang, Andy got in a car accident, but I get to start this week, depending on how bad it is. And then, Canales is coming in and telling him, you're gonna be the starter this week. You got to imagine there was a little bit more pep in his step, after that. And he was like, I ain't letting this go. It was